Good morning to today's hearing for Wawel application for review. My name is Councillor Kelly and I'll be chairing today's hearing. My colleagues are Councillor Praveen Anand and Councillor Sumner, and we comprise the subcommittee. We also have Miss Hatun Zeb, who is legal advisor to the subcommittee, and we have Misha Jalil, who is the clerk to the subcommittee and will be minuting the meeting. In accordance with procedure, I shall invite the licensing authority to present the application for a review hearing and call any witnesses in respect of whom permission to appear has been given and answer any questions put to them. Then I'll invite the premises to make their representation and answer any questions. And then I'll also invite the parties to briefly sum up their respective cases. At the end of the hearing, the subcommittee, accompanied by the legal advisor and the committee clerk, will retire to consider its decision. The decision will be given at the end of the meeting and confirmed within 5 working days.
Sorry, Chairman, just a quick one. Can you hear me? Or...
Yes, Mr. Panchal.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Just checking my...
That's fine. Yeah. We're joined, just for clarity, we're joined in the room by Mr. Panchal, Surrender Panchal, who's representing Wawel premises. And we have Mr. Deer, who is representing the licensing authority. So over to you, Mr. Deer. Just for housekeeping, everyone else, try and keep your microphones muted if you're not speaking. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application to review a premises, as you've mentioned, Wawel 144 South Ealing Road, West 5 4QJ, which is an off licence. And the premises license holder is RMB Investments Limited. These premises have been licensed since the 18th of February 2015, when it was granted to RMB Investments Limited. And the designated premises supervisor on the license is Mrs. Monica Sharma, who is also the sole director of that company. The review was served on the 13th of July 2021 after 3 visits. The first being on the 20th of June 2019, when officers from Training Standards and Licensing visited the premises. As they entered the shop at 14:20, there was one female shop assistant present. We identified ourselves, producing our identification, and the purpose of the visit was explained. And whilst checking behind the counter, I lifted the black bin liner, and underneath I found a plastic bag containing 116 times 20 packets of non-duty paid cigarettes, which is 2,320 in total. And in a small wooden cabinet attached to the wall behind me, I found 6 times 25 gram pouches of roll your own tobacco and 3 times 10 gram pouches of roll your own tobacco. None were in plain packaging. The female stated that the boss brings in the cigarettes and that she was leaving as she was fed up being told to sell it illegally. After speaking to the owner on the phone, it was signed over for destruction and a final warning given. Officers returned in July of 2019, 26.
Sorry, Chairman. Sorry to disturb. Sorry, with the permission of the chair, are we presenting the licensing authorities case today, or are we presenting onto the presentation of the object? I'm a bit confused.
So, Mr. Panchal, the applicant, although it can feel counterintuitive, the applicant presents first. So that's what he's doing. And then obviously, he's the applicant. And obviously, then we take it further. So I'm sure Mr. Deer will be as he will employ as much brevity as he feels is necessary, and you'll have an opportunity to respond. So if you carry on, Mr. Dear.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we returned on the 26th of July 2019 at 6:35, and after identifying ourselves, behind the counter was checked, and in the small wooden cabinet I found 1 times 20 packet of non-duty cigarettes and 6 times 25 grams of roll your own tobacco, all non-duty paid, and that was seized and signed over for destruction. This year on the 6th of July, myself and Brian Gahori, a training standards officer, visited the premises at 5:05, and in a small storeroom behind the counter there was a jacket that we found 2 packets of cigarettes in the pockets. Officer Gahori went outside to the rear fire exit door and parked directly outside was a motor vehicle registration AJ03EHR, and when he looked inside the rear of the vehicle we could clearly see illicit cigarettes in boxes. The staff denied having a key for that car, and the owner was not answering her mobile. So after 30 minutes of waiting for the owner to return the call, the rear window was smashed, and we removed all the cigarettes from the boxes. And in total, there was 16,500 cigarettes in 4 different brands. One of those brands being the same as that were found in the jacket that was hung up inside the premises. There was also 10 packets of 50-gram pouches of roll your own tobacco. At the bottom of one of those boxes, in a plastic bag, we found a 2014 diary and a notebook, and both actually were ledgers that showed the number of cigarettes that the shop has been selling over the past 9 months of this year and last. And in a rough guide to those numbers that were being sold in the shop was £8,000 worth every week. So whilst waiting in the shop for a response from the premises licence holder, the beer fridges were checked, and alcohol above 6% and 9%, which is in breach of condition 8 of the premises licence, was found. Pictures are attached to the papers for you to look at those photos that I've taken. There was also cases of beer that were stacked in piles on the shop floor, breaching condition 7. During our time in the shop, 2 males came in separately and purchased single bottles of beer at 6% ABV, which is in breach of condition 9, which they went outside, open, and started drinking directly outside the shop. These conditions obviously were attached to that licence when the licence was granted at the subcommittee meeting on the 18th of February 2015. So in total, over the 3 visits, 18,840 cigarettes and 810 grams of roll your own tobacco were seized. The unpaid duty on the products amounts to over £7,500. I say that the premises licence holder is failing to promote the prevention of crime disorder licence objectives. I'd also like to add there was an additional statement in the papers when I served the review papers and posted the blue notice on the window. The designated premises supervisor was not present again, but the manager, Miss Natalia Brazen, who was there at the first occasion, signed for receipt of those papers. And in the statement, you can see that conditions were still being breached, even though the 1 can I found of Carpacci 9% had been removed or sold. However, there was still beer in there, was 6%, and they put a sign on it saying not for sale. So it's my recommendation, Chair, that this licence is revoked as the premises licence holder is failing to promote the crime disorder licence objective. Thank you. That's my presentation, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Panchar, you will have opportunity to make representations, but at this point, do you have any questions of clarification to Mr. Dare on the details of what he was saying.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat? Sorry.
This is your opportunity to ask questions of Mr. Dare. Obviously, you'll get an opportunity to make representations, but have you have, questions of factual about what he has said? Not interpretations of the licensing, but in terms of the timings, the quantities, anything in that relation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Through yourself, I'd just like to point out to Mr. Deere that your visits on the 20th June 2019, you went and saw the quantities that you mentioned in your report. Did you, in 20 June, take the quantities away or for destruction?
Yes, they were removed and destroyed.
But according to my client, okay, anyway, I'll present that. Then on 26 July, you took away for destroyed, and you gave a warning to the client regarding this matter. Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
Yeah. So your visit on 20th July, sorry, 26th July was, as mentioned by the client to you, that those were the cigarettes left over from the 20th June or not?
No, those cigarettes were not left over from the previous visit.
Okay. You said in your presentation on 6th July 2021, I heard you saying that the cigarettes were worth over £8,000.
The unpaid duty was in total from the 3 visits
7,500. The car that you destroyed or you went up, that you were waiting for the keys, this first, second, third, fourth paragraph, did that car belong to my clients?
No, it wasn't registered in her name, no.
No. And during your visit regarding the beers that you mentioned, that which were breaching the condition 7, you very clearly mentioned that she did put the signs up that these beer are no longer for sale. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, but it's also a breach to display it.
But they did put the sign up saying they were not for sale.
Yes, but they were displayed in the fridge with the sign in front of them, yes.
Thank you very much, Ed. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions to Mr. Dare on Reid?
No questions, Chair, at the moment. Thank you.
Councillor Sumner?
No questions. I did have a question on the £8,000, but that was subsequently answered.
Thank you. Mr. Dare, I have a question in relation to the motor vehicle. Is it in the service road at the back, or is it in the curtilage of the boundary walls of the property 144?
It's actually in the curtilage of those premises. There's a concrete standing outside the shop at the rear.
And now also the beers in the fridge that were labelled not for sale, the fridge was on and the beer was being refrigerated?
Yes, 100%. There was also...
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay, go on. Also, you might a big fun.
Also, there was when we first went in there on the 6th of July. I think you can see from some of the photographs I've taken, the beer on the front, on the floor, it wasn't just 3 or 4 cases that had been left there because they didn't have room in the fridge or et cetera, et cetera. They were just left there for sale.
And the beer that was labelled not for sale in the fridge wasn't locked either or secured.
No, and I think I mentioned in my statement, there's actually, if you look at one of the pictures from the 13th, there's actually a gap, at least 2 gaps where 2 bottles have actually been removed in my evidence anyway.
Okay. Just questions about CCTV in general. I'm not sure whether it was a condition in the original license, but what discussions have you had about CCTV in this premises over the last 3 years, if any?
On the 13th of July, actually, when I spoke to the shop manager, Miss Brazen, again, and asked for a copy of the CCTV that I'd asked for the week previously. She just shrugged her shoulders and said that she didn't think it was working.
Okay. Sure. So it hasn't been, I mean, obviously you're not a CCTV engineer, but what's your understanding visually of the CCTV? Is it there? Any evidence that it's operational? Is there any, not recorded, but just?
It's their chair, and obviously there are cameras that are positioned for the rear door, which obviously would have shown the staff going in and out of that shop and getting cigarettes from that vehicle.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more questions at this time, Mr. Deer. So, Mr. Panchal, if you'd like to make your representation, sir.
Sorry, Chair. Before I do my presentation, I do have a question because it has come up in your question, Mr. D. So it reflects on that, the CCTV, which he has not mentioned in his report, so we could not answer it. You asked Mr. Deer, was the CCTV, has he got the copy of the CCTV which shows people buying cigarettes from the shop? Which he said he did. Am I right in saying that?
No, Chair, Mr. Panchal, I didn't say I had CCTV. I said I'd requested it, and for some reason it was never downloaded and actually given a copy because it would have incriminated the premises.
Well, it wasn't. It's fair to say it wasn't forthcoming.
It never is, Chair, from any premises.
Well, okay. Yeah, all right. Well, we'll take application each one at a time, and on this occasion, there hasn't been any CCTV forthcoming. Mr. Panchal, yeah, if you'd like to make your representation, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Having this, I understand. I've been coming to these hearings on similar types every now and then with clients. Chair, I'd like to put you some facts about Mr. Monica. She's here with me, so if there was any questions to be asked, she is here with me in my office. I'd like to put some background of Mrs. Monica Sharma. She did have a shop right opposite the council, which was called Poliski Scalp in the year 2009 till 2015. That is 6 years. The shop had no breaches due to her divorce with her husband. She was left with that shop on her own. And due to the rise in shop rates and shop licenses, shop rents, she had to leave that shop and find a new shop which was called Wawel, which we are now today hearing the case about, which was in year 2015. She does hold a personal license. From 2015 onwards, she also acquired her personal interest, which was on bookkeeping, and had her own firm, has still got her own firm in bookkeeping. And her best choice was not a shop, but bookkeeping was her main business from 2008 onwards. So, and it was growing faster. So her only choice left was to keep the business running. She employed 2 staff at the Wawel 144 under the management, and the staff were granted given the section 57 to represent the DPS, because Mrs. Monica Sharma was a DPS. And the staff had carried on with the shop. What my client is saying that in 2019, the staff rang Monica Sharma and said, because everybody else next door is selling cigarettes, could we also not sell cigarettes? At that particular time, they were not selling cigarettes at the shop up to 2019. So from 2015 to 2019, they weren't selling cigarettes. Even the legal cigarettes were not sold. They weren't selling cigarettes at all. And when the staff rang and said, we would like to sell cigarettes, Mrs. Monica thought that it was the legal cigarettes they were talking about. So she said, yep, go and buy the cigarettes and sell. Not realizing that the cigarettes the staff were talking about and what the other people were selling were cigarettes which were not legal. Hence, when the visit was made on 20th June 2019 by Bob Deere and his colleague, it was realized that the cigarettes were not legal. So Mrs. Monica Sharma warned the staff not to sell those cigarettes. They were a leftover, according to my client, on when our next visit was of Mr. Bob Deere on 26 July, some of the cigarettes were still left in the shop. Not all of the cigarettes were taken away. Some tobacco also was left. So they weren't selling it in 26 July 2019, and those cigarettes were taken away for destruction. It was destroyed. And Mrs. Monica had warned the staff that we do not want to sell any of these cigarettes. Coming back to 6th of July 2021, the cigarettes that Mr. Bob Deere and his colleague found, 2 by 20 packets, were found in one of the pockets of the staff. So it wasn't in Mrs. Monica's pockets or anything. She had clearly warned that we do not want to sell. The vehicle parked does not even belong to Mrs. Monica. So how the staff were carrying on the business from the vehicle, we don't know, because she doesn't own the vehicle. She doesn't know about the vehicle at all. So she was a bit surprised with what happened. The beers that were brought in, which the condition on the floor, breaching condition 7, which were about 9% and above 8%. Again, those beers were bought because everybody else next door was selling. So the staff went and bought and put this beers up there. Ms. Monica warned the staff that we should not be selling it. So whatever beers were left over in the shops, labels were put up that they were not up for sale. She clearly stated, when you put the notices up on the beers, that we are not going to sell. Yes, she's breached the condition by displaying those beers there, which she didn't realize that she was breaching these conditions. So cutting the thing short, she was trying to make sure that she understood the regulations. She did breach a few of them, but She had complied in the past from 2009 to 2015, from 2015 to 2019. And when the staff took over, there was a bit of a mess that the staff carried out. Her new business, her old business, bookkeeping, is now getting much better and much popular. So now, with these problems arising at the shop, Mrs. Monica Sharma has decided to sell the shop. The shop is up for sale. We have a client who's coming up to get the shop, awaiting on the whatever happens today with your hearings. Her request to the committee today is we could have a short suspension period. She is happy to have a short suspension period, during which time the matters for the shop sale is carried out. The new owners would come in. The license be transferred to the new owners during that period, and she could be relieved of the business, and the business could take a better turn of what has happened. So the new owners who would then run the business on their own and being there all the time be much better. So there is an incident happened on 20th June this year. The daughter of Monica Sharma has fallen off from the 7th floor, and she is now in a wheelchair. So Mrs. Monica Sharma is now looking to sell the shop, and proceeds of the shop will be spent on her daughter's look after and her treatment. So there is another thing that she is now deciding to go ahead. If the license of the committee decides to revoke the license, which we understand under 11.27 of the Act, which I have explained to Monica Sharma, that under 11.27, even in the first instance, the staff have made this mistake, and it is a very serious matter, and a license can be revoked, which we are requesting the committee not to go towards that. She understands that, and she's very sorry for what the staff has carried out in the shops. She's happy to relieve the business out of her hands into some good hands which come in. So, Chairman, this is what we feel there is a way forward for this business to go. And this business could move forward with a new owner coming in and taking over the business. If there are any other questions or something, she's here, I'm here to answer those.
Okay, that's useful. Just at this point, we'll go back to what you're, later on we'll go back to what you're proposing. We'll come back to that for you to request that formally. Now this is the opportunity for members and the applicant to ask any questions, but in totality, I want to save time. The whole totality of the breaches, Mrs. Sharma accepts all of them as factual, whether it be no CCT forthcoming, the vehicle in the back, etc., etc., etc. She doesn't contest any of that. Is that correct?
Sorry, Chairman, she contests to say that the vehicle does not belong to her.
Okay,
So,
that doesn't relate to the breaches. So yeah. So what was this? The cigarettes that were confiscated, the vehicle that was in the back, the fact that there was a fridge refrigerating beer saying not for sale, all of those things. Does she contest any of that?
Yeah, in reality, she understands that yes, a mistake was carried out by the staff. She understands that that mistake should have not happened when she was fully in charge during the reason I've said to you that during 2009 to 2015, she was running the shop Poleski scalp when she was paying more attention. None of the breaches were carried out. Again, 2015 to 2019, no breaches were carried out in the shop because she was paying more attention. These breaches have come in. What she's saying is the breaches have come in because her attention towards the shop had reduced.
I understand that. I don't really want, we don't need, I just want to, I don't, there's lots of things I want to ask, but I need not ask them if she accepts the totality of the statements.
She does agree with the mistakes carried out on 2000.
No, yeah. So everything in there, she doesn't contest the details.
No, she doesn't contest the detail.
And the fact that the car was being used as a storage, that
she's contesting that because the car does not belong to her.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Why was there a vehicle in the curtilage of the property storing illicit items?
Well, that surprised my client also, because again, I've said to you, and I'm repeating again from the best of my knowledge, from what I hear from my client, that the car was there, and if the staff were using it, we don't know. There is no evidence to you or to me or to anybody.
Excuse me, I need to pause for a moment, please.
Yeah.
Apologies. Carry on.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the car.
So she herself does not know why the car was there, but it was there, and as I said to you earlier, and keep saying to you that the staff were handling the shop, and the staff were doing that. So
Okay.
she can't comment much on that.
Okay, that's fine. Any other? Okay. I mean, I'm satisfied that Mr. Pancho accepts the details. So I have no more questions on the details. Councillors?
Chair, I have 3 questions, very short ones. One of them is actually might be best addressed to Mr. Deer, but I'll thank you, Mr. Panchal, for your presentation, and Mr. Deer as well. I just would like to ask you, with regards to the car, as we were talking about the car, the road that the car actually is parked, is that accessible to members of the public or only the business owners? I'll pause there so you can answer that question, and then I'll ask the next one.
Sorry, Chair, my screens have all frozen, so and I'm not even on the screen anymore on mine.
Well, we can hear you.
We can see you and hear you, Mr. Deer.
Lovely, thank you. The service road is accessible from either end of the street. There's 2 streets, and obviously the service road goes behind all the shops. However, the vehicle was actually off that service road and on the property, the curtilage of 144.
Thank you. That clarifies that point. The other point I'd like to ask Mr. Panchal, is there a lack of storage in the premises? Was there reasons why, even though the beer was not supposed to be sold, could not be stored at the back? Is there an explanation for that?
I can ask my client, was there enough space to?
It's very limited space, it's a very narrow shop.
Sorry, my client says that it's a very narrow shop and there isn't enough storage at the back.
Okay, thank you. And my final question, as Mr. Deere explained about the ledger, would the ledger also have just expenditure, income, or was it also showing expenditure? So from Mr. Deere's first visit, would the ledger actually demonstrate that there was more purchases made? How was the ledger actually displayed? Was it just sales, or was there also payments made? Can either Mr. Deere or Mr. Panchal answer that?
Yeah, what was that?
My client have explained to me that the ledger was a diary of 2014.
That's what it says, because I've never seen that. I have no idea.
And my client had never seen that. It was only found by Mr. Deere there. And then my client had a look at that ledger, but does not recall why it was there or what was it there.
Okay, and my final question, actually I did say three, but this fourth one has just come to my mind.
Yeah.
When one is actually wanting to demonstrate that they're not in any knowledge, one would actually try and demonstrate enough evidence to show that, no, I wasn't there, I wasn't involved in this activity. So I'm just concerned that to demonstrate that, it would have been very easy to just show the CCTV, and it would have been very clear that the DPS had no knowledge at all, but that wasn't forthcoming. So that is a concern. Thank you. That doesn't have to be answered. That is an observation.
No, I think it's a fair observation and worthy of a question about the CCTV. So, like Councillor Praveen says, there's a number of things. If she had no knowledge, then why has there been no CCTV forthcoming?
Chairman, I've been just been informed by the client here that she wasn't aware that the CCTV was asked by Mr. Bob Deere, but it is available. Even if the CCTV is required, it is available. The staff did not say to her that the CCTV was asked for. So that's where.
Well, would you like to comment on that? How you requested the CCTV?
Obviously, because Mrs. Sharma wasn't answering her phone, because obviously for different reasons, I appreciate that. The manager, she said she was the manager, was asked for a copy of the CCTV from all cameras, and obviously nothing was ever mentioned apart from when I went back a week later that it wasn't working. Obviously, it's been offered now, but of course, it doesn't cover the 6th of July anymore, 2021.
Okay, right. Thank you. Would you like to make any other comment about the CCT, Mr. Panchal?
Well, ma'am, the other side of the story could be in many occasions where I've done hearings where the police or the enforcement officers do have a full right to, even if the CCTV is not provided, to remove the recorder and take it away to get the CCTV on it, if it can be enforced, if it was. But as far as we are concerned, my client still stands to her say that the CCTV, she didn't have any idea about the CCTV being asked. But if it was asked and if she'd known about it, she would have given the CCTV.
Okay. I don't think we can. Yeah.
Can I ask one question? Sorry, if yourselves
Yes,
are finished.
Yes, people. Well, I'll ask the chair and I'll rule it in order or not, so to speak. Yeah.
It's actually from that last point, Chair. we've heard that Mrs. Sharma was a licensee before I came to the borough anyway. 2016 I came here. And she's saying that she didn't know that staff were doing this and doing that. Well, when I spoke to her on the phone on my first visit on the 20th of June 2019, I would probably ask for two things, or would have wondered if she'd done two things. One, took a bit more interest in the premises, and two, has she ever tried to contact me? I appreciate she's got her mind on other things at the moment, but through Mr. Panchal maybe, which has happened. Why hasn't she asked what it was all about? She's just, well, in my terms, buried her head in the sand, I think.
Mr. Panchal, I'd like you for maybe ask Mr. Sharma and ask why she hasn't been more forthcoming with the authority.
I was not in the stage after this accident.
Sorry, Chairman. All she's because I got in touch with the client after the 20th of June, and she wasn't in state of mind after 20th of June of what happened to her daughter, which fell from the 7th floor, and she's no longer in a state. She's in a wheelchair, and lucky enough that she survived. But her mind in her state presently is totally on her daughter's recovery. I can't ask any more questions to her than that. I can see her state in front of me at the moment also.
Chair, may I ask?
Yeah, go. Yeah.
What happened in 2019 on two occasions? One when I spoke to Mrs. Sharma, and we're talking about 2019. She's,
yeah,
you know.
So, I think Mr. Panchal, what Bob is alluding to is that the accident is quite recent. We're sorry for that. But previous to that, there wasn't any forthcoming engagement with the authorities.
Chairman, it's very difficult for me to answer, and it's very difficult for me to stress onto that. All I can say is that she should have got in touch with Bob Deere, no doubt about that. We are saying to all our clients in future and presently also that please do work along with the responsible authorities. If you can't get in touch with us. We will get in touch with the authority to talk about your premises if there's anything wrong. And we are getting positive results at the moment. This is where now, at the moment, on 20th June, the clients has contacted us after the 20th of June. The state that she is in at the moment is more to get rid of the shop ASAP and concentrate on her daughter more. This is where we're looking at and trying to help her get into that stage.
Okay. I think, yeah, I think we're, Nigel, you've got your finger up, which I would suggest is a, yeah.
I'm sorry, Chair. It's like all these things, isn't it? Are the staff still working in the shop, or have they been dismissed? Can we ask that question?
Yes,
yes, Nigel. I'm sorry, Councillor Nigel. Yes, the staff are still working there at the moment. The
reason for my asking is with these breaches,
yeah.
Obviously there's a question mark over what they're doing and whether in fact they're making money for themselves. I'm presuming here in my conversation, because obviously there's quite a lot of money that is apparently going through the premises, which is not being paid to the government. Is that okay to say that?
Well, at the moment,
Panchal?
Yeah, at the moment, there is a control over the staff now much more. But again, she has appointed a manager separate from these two staff.
There's a DPS in place, is there?
to make sure that control of the shop is kept while it's on the sale.
And did I ask that question correctly? Is there a DPS in place?
Yes, Monica Sharma is the DPS.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. And with regards to the CCTV, can we assume, because I haven't heard it said, that it's actually in place and is working?
Yes, Councillor, the CCTV is working. It's always been working, and it's in place.
And you've actually seen it yourself now that you're looking after the premises, yes?
I'm not looking after the premises, sorry to say this, but I am guiding to the owner.
I always, yes, thank you. I should have said that. Thank you, Mr. Panchal. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Panchal, you took instructions on which date?
I took instructions after the 20th of June, when I think
Of this year, yeah?
Yeah, after the 20th of June, not before
July,
then.
July.
In
July.
July, I took the instructions in July.
After the last enforcement.
Yeah, after the
Yeah,
last.
okay. And did you contact Mr. Dare and perhaps on the basis of CCTV?
I have had a small discussion with Bob Deere and Brian when I came down to the council for another matter, and we did discuss about this case. And I did made it very clear to Brian and Bob during my visit that the shop is up for sale. I am negotiating with somebody regarding the sale of the shop, and I have asked Mrs. Monica Sharma that this is not the time for you to carry on this shop and leave it, which she is agreed on her advice.
And did you, thanks for that. My question was, did you discuss CCTV with Bob or Mr. Dorman?
I don't think we discussed anything about the CCTV or any
Okay.
other matter, apart from there is a PACE interview which is being arranged with Bob, Brian and my clients, which is pending at the moment. So we were discussing about that also.
You were what? Sorry, could you repeat that?
There is a PACE interview that the trading standards wishes to carry out regarding this matter.
Okay, well, I didn't know about that, and now I do.
Yeah.
But I obviously won't be taking that into consideration because I don't have full details. Okay, right. So I'm yes. I keep saying I'm done, and then I keep coming back, but I think I believe I am done. Councillors, shake your heads if you or if you're okay. Yeah, fine. Yeah. Okay. So if we go to representation, so obviously, Bob, you can go, and then I will follow by Mr. Panchal. And Mr. Panchal, if you could obviously respond to anything and put with clarity what it is that you're proposing. So, Bob.
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, this is a premises that has obviously an experienced designated premise supervisor, not in charge of it. I was unaware that she had a shop opposite Ealing Council. So she's got no excuse about the law. It's basically, neglect, and neglect isn't an excuse for anything. In 20th of June 2019, she was spoken to by myself on the phone, and it fully explained on that phone call what was going to happen to that stock and not to stock it. The shop doesn't even sell normal tobacco. I go back on the 26th of July. The first shop worker has gone because she went back to Poland, because as I explained, she'd been fed up with been told to sell illegal cigarettes. So it hasn't been going on 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. It seems it's been going on, and probably before the 20th of June 2019. So July 26th of July 2019, I return again. No contact. You know, we're not that far away from South Ealing Road. No contact at all. We go back because we've been told what the shop is doing on the 6th of July 2021. And well, it was like a tobacco shop, you know, that's all it is. Sells £8,000 worth a week. You know, and way I say, if somebody taps me on the shoulder and says the authorities were here, I'd contact them if I've got nothing to hide. But Mrs. Sharma knew exactly what was happening in that shop. Surprise, surprise, she's a bookkeeper. So the ledgers we found hidden underneath all the cigarettes. No surprise now to me. It was done on a day-to-day, and somebody may say, why 2014? It's probably the first book that came to hand when lines were drawn down it, brands were put down, how many packets they sold, the next day, how many they were sold. So I've heard nothing at all this morning to change my opinion that this license should be revoked. And obviously, the offer of a suspension would be no good because apparently the staff are doing it without her knowledge. So that wouldn't stop anything either. So that's my submission, Chair. Verification. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Dear. Ms. Panchal, obviously, it's, unless councillors will have more questions at the end of this, this will be the last summing up.
Thank you very much, Chair. I haven't got much to sum up, but I'd like to clarify again that we did ask the question to Mr. Dear about the £8,000 per week sale, and we were told that the duty of the cigarettes was 7,500, not the sale. Again, we mentioned in his step just now that there was cigarettes sold of £8,000 per week, which we do not agree. Yes, we agree that the staff did carry out on the 20th of June and 26th of July.
They were the same things.
They were the same things again, which were not cleared. But Mrs. Monica Sharma did warn the staff. She does apologize that she wasn't paying as much attention at the shop as there should be by an EPS. Hence, we are proposing the committee today that if this premises is suspended for the period during which the sale of the agreements, the sales could be carried out, and after the suspension period, we would be suggesting that the new license holder and the new DPS be the condition put up for the premises, which we have a buyer at the moment, which we are negotiating at the moment, and he's awaiting the result of today. If the license was revoked, the buyer is going to walk away. That is for sure. That is what we have heard from the buyer. Presently, Mrs. Monica is concentrating more on her daughter's recovery, and would be a better a sale would be a better proposal for us to utilize that money towards her daughter's treatment, and that is what she is looking forward to. Yes, she apologizes for what has happened in the shop. It should not have happened, because she had a better control of her previous shops from 2009 to 2015 and in 2015 to 2019, which we are looking at, if she was to run the premises. She has made a mistake. She's rectifying it by saying, this is not for me. The shop is not presently for me. So we're trying to get rid of the shop. So Chairman, we propose a suspension period during which time the shop will be transferred to the new owners. And I'm willing to have a meeting with the new owners and the responsible authorities to make sure that the responsible authorities and the new owners understand how the way forward for this shop be taken. So that's our proposal to the committee today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Panchal. Any questions? No. Hattie, I just before we retire, I just wanted to get a steer from you that we've covered everything. So,
Yes, we have.
yeah.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Time now is 11:27.
Yeah, can I, it's difficult to, let's just say
Yeah,
before you
go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Sumner.
Sorry.
No problem.
Did Mr. Panchal agree that there was no other person in the shop and that the owner would, in fact, as the DPS, would actually run the shop in its entirety? Is that what Mr. Panchal has agreed?
There's a bit of Microsoft sounds coming out someone's device there. What was the question, Councillor Sumner, or did you get it, Councillor Mr. Panchal?
Do you want me to repeat it, Mr. Panchal?
Yeah.
Did Mr. Panchal, and you're muted, Mr. Panchal, did you actually confirm that the DPS would be the owner of the shop and this other person who'd been working the shop was no longer going to be there? Is that
Yes, yes, Councillor Sumner. The way forward is going to be a completely new DPS and a completely new license holder and a completely new owner of the shop. Let's put it like that.
Okay.
I'm now. I'm muted, am I? No, I'm all right.
No, we can hear you, Nigel.
Yeah, I just want to understand, as Mr. Panchal actually said, that there is going to be someone else running the shop today. I mean, going forward, irrespective of the fact that the shop's going to be sold. Is someone going to be in charge now as the DPS? Is it going to be the owner? Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't, because at the present moment, Monica Sharma is the DPS and the license holder. The company RMH Industries is the license holder, and Monica Sharma is a DPS. At the moment, she is trying to control the shop as much as she can. There is no breach for the time being at the shop. We hope, that's what we are saying, which I would say, at the moment, there is no breach.
I'm probably not being as forceful as I might. I'm really trying to get to, Chair, that the people who have allegedly been making these breaches, are they still on the premises, or is the owner, the DPS, actually going to be there doing the job on a daily basis? I mean, I'm sure this is going to be something that's going to affect.
I mean, there's sort of two separate questions. You know, who's the people that are there today? So, you know, if I was to walk down the South Ealing Road and walk into that shop, the people serving me, would they be the same people that have been there over the last 6 months when the last breaches were made? Is it the same person?
One of them, let's put it like that. One of them is already there, because that's the staff, but the one that was creating the problem is no longer there. And Ms. Monica Sharma at the moment is trying to make sure and is making sure that there are no breaches happening at the moment. She's visiting the shop on a regular basis.
Different times.
And different times, that's what she's saying.
Okay.
Chair, can I just say something?
Yeah. I mean, Mr. Dear, you're the one who observes these premises more regularly than us. So yeah, please.
In Mr. Panchal's presentation, and that's what the confusion is, he said that though Miss Monica Sharma is still the licence holder and the DPS, that somebody else was looking after it for her. He clearly said that, and he said that the two when asked the question, the 2 shop workers were still employed at the shop.
All 2 shopkeepers still were employed at the shop.
They are the same, yes, but I don't have any evidence actually that they were doing any. I mean, they are still there. If there's recommendation to change them, I can try to change them, but they are like a good.
Okay, well, I think it's fair to say that the panel have got decisions to consider, and we can address that in our decision making, you know, and we will make recommendations will be clear from today going forward as to who should and shouldn't be in the shop based on what our decision is today. Yeah. So I'm gonna, unless anybody, Mr. Pancha, I'll give you the last opportunity, and then we will retire.
Chairman, I have already asked Monica Sharma that she must have, in the meantime, while the sale is going on, have full control of the shop and make sure things are, none of the things are breached at the shop. And she's assured me that presently there are no breaches at the shop. Now, that's all I can say from my side.
That's fine. I don't think we can go any further than that. Right, it's 11:33. So what happens now is you'll be shown the door to the room and invited back in when we're ready to give our decision. It's 11:33. I'm confident that we'll be able to come back with a decision at 12:15. So I would suggest that Mr. Panchal, Mr. Dear, you come back at 12:10, and we'll see you at 12:15. We reserve the right, however, to take longer if we need to. So see you at 12:10. Everybody else can stay in the room. Thank you very much.